Hey, everybody. I assume that my mic is on. Greg.
You're on.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another of our bi weekly What's This Bird live shows. I am Nate Swick. I'm joined by my colleague, ABA colleague, Greg Neise, and we are here to talk birds and talk bird identification. We're currently going live on all the ABA various. Oh, I'm hearing my voice somewhere. Hold on. I turn it. It's on Twitter. Yeah. What we do here every other week is that we maintain a group in Facebook called What's This Bird? It is essentially a crowd-sourced bird identification community. And folks take photos of birds that they see. They post them up on this group, and then our friendly groups and our friendly group members and administrators help identify those birds. But occasionally we get some birds that are kind of more interesting than just your everyday feeder birds, and we will pick those up, and Greg and I will talk about them. And if you have any other questions about birds or birding or anything having to do with ornithology, feathers, any of the kind of bird adjacent topics, we're happy to talk about those too. Just leave those comments in the comment section. We'll be monitoring those as we go. Greg, happy Christmas bird count season.
Yeah, or if you're like Len and Mia and just want to say hi,
that's do that too.
Just say hi because we like seeing you guys.
We know you're out there.
Hey, so yeah, Christmas count season.
It's the time.
You know what? I am not doing any counts this year.
Yeah, my own count schedule is pretty light. I'm actually going out of town next week with family. We're going to the Outer Banks. We're going to the beach, which is some fantastic birding. I'm very excited to sit on the beach house and put my scope out on the ocean and just see what flies by every single day.
Lapwings.
My Christmas bird count, fingers crossed. Lapwings, snowy owls, razor bills, murres, all the good stuff. Eiders, I still need king eider for the state. I'd be stoked to get one of those. Anyway, so I will miss my local Christmas bird count, which I'm a little sad to do. But I know there's folks out there have a lot of Christmas bird counts. It's one of our great community cultural events of the year. I love a Christmas bird count, even if I may not do one this year.
So, yeah, I mean, I can't. The busiest day for me is the Sunday before Christmas, which is when the Chicago area counts. The two, I think, two of the most important counts are this Sunday. And I had this great idea because usually I do the Lyle Arboretum count, which is the COS count, which we've had some fantastic birds. As a matter of fact, on that Christmas count, when I was a kid in the 70s, I stumbled upon the very best single thing that I've ever found, which was a flock of 80 pine grosbeaks.
I think you told that story on an ABA blog post, didn't you? Or
I did,
and it was in the podcast.
On the
Christmas
podcast.
Bird Count podcast that we did
right.
years ago.
So that count is one that I've done for a long time, but I had this idea of the Chicago urban count. My neighborhood is in that. And where I live, we have just a boatload of fruit trees and robins and cedar waxwings and things that live in the towns of Oak Park and Forest Park. And I thought, just walk around or drive around the town and just count robins and stuff all day. But anyways, I cannot do that because I will be running along with you this Sunday.
We should announce that. That is
the ABA Bird of the Year reveal party is this Sunday afternoon
at Triple Bottom Brewing in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The home of American ornithology, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So many great ornithologists have been there, and now we are adding to that long legacy by having a Bird of the Year reveal party from 3 to 7 at Triple Bottom Brewing. Tickets are available at aba.org/bird of the year if you're in the area and want to join us. If not, we're actually going to live stream the reveal at 5 o'clock on the 19th, 5 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to do a special live reveal. We were doing some technology checks on that the other day, Greg. It is going to be super cool. So keep an eye out.
It is.
I believe that I have posted the event on the ABA's Facebook page and also on our various social media feeds, YouTube at least. Please check that out so you don't miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun, even if you can't.
Yep, it is at the top. It is at the top of the What's This Bird group in the pinned announcements. So just kind of scroll through those. You'll see it. This year's artist, Christina Ball, is just the work is magnificent. We've all seen it. It's really fantastic. I'm
excited to announce that we are doing 3 different covers. She did 3 pieces of art for us this year.
Yeah.
3 different Bird of the Year covers, and you'll be a dealer's choice which one you get, and 2 different stickers. Everyone will get.
Yeah.
We got a lot of stuff coming up this year.
A lot of stuff going on. So I guess we can just jump right into talking about some bird ID here.
Sure. Yeah. And as I said before, people are sort of filtering in. I'll say it again. Hello to everybody who's joining us, perhaps while we're vamping here at the beginning. People post photos to the What's This Bird Facebook group. You're welcome to join that if you like. And they get their photos identified. One of the cool things about What's This Bird is that there's definitely there's a seasonal aspect of it. We get certain birds at certain times of the year, and we get pretty familiar with certain birds, and we'll be talking a little bit about that. Seems like winter is a waterfowl season, it's gull season, it's sparrow season. So we get a lot of those this time of year, and we'll be touching a little bit on those today.
Yeah. So here we go.
Let's do it.
I think. Well, let's see. Nothing moved.
Nope, I don't see anything. Your duck winner, says Cliff Ollie. Yes, sir. Cliff says he's scheduled for 5 counts right now. That's a lot of counts. That's on the high end. I know people that have done, here in North Carolina, there are 3 or 4 consecutive
there we go.
counts on the, I still don't see it, Greg.
No, I know. I pushed the wrong button.
There it is.
There we go.
Continue my thought. There are like 3 or 4 Christmas counts that are like one right after another on the Outer Banks and the coast, and so people will go out for the week and like just do bam, 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 4 counts right in a row, like the Hatteras Island Christmas bird count, the Nag's Head Christmas bird count, the Alligator River Christmas bird count, the Mattamuskeet Christmas bird count. People seem to do that a lot. I'm sure there's other parts of the world that are similar.
Mm-hmm.
So you can rack them up.
Yeah, there's a good dozen Christmas counts that are easily accessible to the greater Chicago area at least.
You can definitely,
and several that overlap. So, okay, so this
bird has its name right there, so we don't have to do any sort of identification on it.
Yeah, no, we're gonna be talking about something a little different here with this photo. This photo was not submitted to What's This Bird because with a photo like this and a look like this, there is no question what this bird is. And as you can see, it's a Henslow sparrow. And the photo on the left was taken by Andrew Bach, our buddy out in New York City. This is the now famous Henslow sparrow that was in Greenwood Cemetery and giving people just killer looks. Much better than, I live in the land of Henslow sparrows, and we very, very rarely get a look like this.
I remember my first Henslow sparrow was the traditional. It was back when I was a younger birder in Missouri. I have a lot of summering Henslow sparrows, and it was, this little tiny brown thing sitting on top of a reed in like a protected wet meadow kind of prairie kind of place. And that's where you usually see them. They have what is generously described as a song. I don't know if it's more of a hiccup.
It sounds like a hiccup. I mean, Sibley does a great job describing it. It's just the word slick. But it's interesting if you slow it down.
Yeah, it's really cool.
There's a whole lot happening in there that we just can't hear.
It's for them, not for us.
Exactly.
Anyway, what are we looking at here? What is significant about this Henslow sparrow, Greg?
Well, what's significant about this Henslow sparrow is that it looks exactly like the flippin' illustration in the bird book.
Nice work, David Sibley.
Exactly.
Guy knows a little bit about birds.
But, I mean, it looks exactly like the illustration. And for a new birder that is, finds this bird that looks like this and looks through their app or looks through their field guide, they're looking at field marks and like, okay, the olive green head, the buffy flanks, the white scaling on the back, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
We got it. This bird, that's what this is. pay attention to the time of year, which was last week, so the first week of December. Now, here is a Henslow sparrow that I took in Illinois in July on the right, and here is our Henslow sparrow in December on the left. And Chris Ortega, I'm going to just jump in here now. Chris Ortega asks about the spam that we're getting in What's This Bird. We are monitoring it.
I'm sorry. It's been bad lately.
It's been bad. We're trying our best to keep up with it. We're deleting and blocking as fast as we can, but we've been discovered by the spammers, and we're doing our best. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Facebook, for the changes you've made to groups to make that sort of stuff happen a lot more.
Right. So, okay, back to this bird. What we have on the right, Henslow sparrows. So all right, I got to back up here and start all over.
Henslow
what we're
sparrows.
looking at in the center, what we're looking at in the center is a graph from Cornell's Birds of the World. And this is the timing of migration and molt. And so what we're looking at there, the red arrow is pointing to, on the right, is pointing to when Henslow sparrow molts, does its primary, let's see here, it's the body feathers versus the primaries, is the outermost of the two innermost rings in the light blue circle. And it shows that Henslow sparrows start molting in late July and finish by the end of October. So
pretty typical for birds.
Yeah.
They start molting immediately after the chicks fledge from the nest. Birds will go through, a bird's year can pretty much be broken down into 3 really energy intensive times of year, maybe 4 really energy intensive times of year. And that's feeding the chicks, migrating, and molting. And they don't do any of those things at the same time. They kind of split them up. And so as soon as those chicks are out and before they migrate, that's when they do their molt. That's when they
exactly
molt.
And so the bird on the left is immediately after molting, and those feathers are in pristine condition, and Beautiful. It looks just Perfect. Like the field guide. The bird on the right, yes, the bird on the right was taken in late July before it started molting and is in its most worn plumage.
It has been in those feathers for 10 months.
Yes, and you'll notice that the buffy flank is gone. The olive green head and supercilium is not barely hinted at. Maybe sort of. It's just worn off. Mm-hmm. The scalloping on the back has turned to streaking.
Nothing.
And the rufous tones and everything are gone. So it has basically a straw-colored back with black streaks. And if you went in the field guide and started looking, you would get really confused because that pattern and the way that bird looks matches several species that could be found.
Including a number of species in the same genus as
exactly
the Ammophila genus. Not Ammophila, it's Ammodramus. Are they still
yes.
Ammodramus? No, there's no more Ammodramus. There's only one Ammodramus now. It's grasshopper sparrow. They've changed all the genera around, and it's really messing with my head. But there are a lot of similar kind of birds that are not only similar looking and similar shaped, but similar habitats as well, like LeConte sparrow and grasshopper sparrow and Savannah sparrow and things like that.
Yep. And the sharp tails.
Sharp tails, yeah.
So basically what I brought this in here for is to talk about, pay attention to status and distribution, when you see the bird, where you see the bird, and become familiar with when these birds molt, and be aware that if you're looking at a lot of birds in late summer, they're going to look really ratty, and you have to do some extra sleuthing. Yes, it could be Savannah, it could be now here's where structure comes into play. Savannah sparrow doesn't have that kind of pointed tail. The individual tail feathers are pointed. And this bird has a big bill and kind of a flat head.
I'll tell you, they do different things too. Well, big bill, flat head, as you said. They do different things when you flush. Like say you're walking through a field and you flush a small sparrow. Savannah like takes off and like keeps going. Like they do not stop. They will keep flying over the hill and fly for a long way. Whereas these little brush sparrows, formerly Ammodramus, will pop up and drop back down after like 10 feet. Like they don't even want to be bothered flying for the most part.
And
so you can kind of know what you're looking at when you flush one.
And then they run like mice.
Yeah, like mice.
They get on the ground. They fly. If you flush one, it flies 10 feet, like Nate said. It drops to the ground, and you think, okay, it's there. You're standing there trying to see where it is. That bird is already 45, 50 feet away. Yep. It's running like crazy.
It has run between your legs and is behind you now. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So the Birds of the World, the Cornell Birds of the World, is an incredible resource that has really detailed species accounts with molt timing and everything you'd want to know, basically. Everything that's available to know, basically. And ABA members get a 15% discount on their subscription to Birds of the World, where you can get access to all this information and learn about molt and learn about your favorite species or difficult species.
Interesting side note before we move on to a different bird. Henslow sparrow, named after John Stevens Henslow, a British geologist who never came to North America and never actually saw any of these birds, and was just a buddy of Audubon that he wanted to impress, so he named the bird after him.
Bird names for birds.
Audubon did that a lot. People he wanted to impress and wanted to get on his side when he was trying to sell his book, he would just name a bird after him.
Oh yeah, and come on, you also know there was some scratch being
the Home Depot sparrow for the 17th century.
Exactly. Hey, you want to buy my you want two portfolios?
That's right.
Complete subscriptions, and I'll name this bird after you. Yep. He was Audubon. Audubon was an interesting character, he was a businessman. He wasn't an ornithologist. He was a businessman. Okay, so that's our little primer on molt for today. Let's move on here. So this comes to us from Toronto.
Nice duck, Greg.
And it's a beautiful picture. I mean, it's one of the best pictures I think I've ever seen of this species in this plumage.
Yeah. So it's a water bird, obviously. So we're gonna move to the front of our field guides when we're trying to figure this guy out. Usually, water birds come before land birds. Large birds come before small birds, etc. That's just kind of rule of thumb. But it is not a duck, and it's not a duck for a few reasons. It looks like it's got a little bit of a longer neck than most duck species, even though it's folded. And of course, the bill does not look anything like any of our duck species. It is long and pointed as opposed to sort of flat on the tip. And even the sort of longer billed ducks like mergansers typically have a little bit of a hook at the end and wouldn't look anything like that. Not much in the way of wings on this bird. Can't really see him. Looks like a big
one other thing.
No tail too.
Well, yeah. Thanks. I was just going to get there. Is like all pretty much all ducks. You can see the tail when the bird is swimming, and the ducks that we have that are compact like this. Look at how compact and blorby this thing is. Especially fuzzy. I am going to ban Madagascar at some point here really soon. And Steve Huggins for that matter.
You guys.
This bird is really compact and kind of orbish.
It's a borb. It's a borb.
It's a borb. And the more compact ducks that we have, like ruddy duck, have really noticeable tails. Those called stiff-tailed ducks for a reason. The tail sticks up in the air.
So that puts us in the the water birds section. Alcids, loons, and grebes are sort of our three birds. The long neck sort of rules out most of our alcids, which look very almost necklace and bull-necked. It's not very long. It's actually kind of short front to back. Loons are exceptionally long when you see them, very long and streamlined birds. And so it doesn't have that. So this is certainly a grebe, what is it? Podiciforms?
Yeah, that's right.
Which is the feet on the end, essentially. It means that the podicips. In Latin, it means that the feet are at the end instead of the tail. So Latin name. describes what it is.
So
Yeah.
so there's when you if you go through the field guide and you get onto grebes, you're going to wind up with 3 possible species this could be. And those 3 are these 3.
Yep.
And there is a 4th that it could be confused with, and that is western grebe, which is kind of out of the running here because even when the neck is held down like it is in the bird in the back, it still has a big, long swan-like neck and a longer bill, and the colors are sharper and everything. The pattern is sharper, I should say. So here we have the 3 species that this could be, and those are horned grebe, eared grebe, and redneck grebe. So the bird in the back is our bird in question, and these are kind of done to size, sort of. So you see the birds in front are a little bit smaller, but the big yellow lower mandible, the yellow on the bill that I think Clifford mentioned is a really good field mark for this bird, which is a redneck grebe. And looking at the 2 birds in front, you see that they're really pretty similar, but look at the bill shapes of these 3. You see how the bird in front on left, that's an eared grebe, and it has a very thin and noticeably upturned bill. The face is also very dark, and it's very, very floofy. Also, the head kind of peaks above the eye. So it's almost like it's got this little crown or party hat. Yeah. On the right, we have a horned grebe. And the horned grebe has, again, a thinner bill than rednecked, but the bill is more evenly shaped. It doesn't have that upturn. And notice the little white tip at the pale tip of the bill. If you can see it,
but they always have it. Yep.
Exactly. If you can see it, that is a slam dunk mark for horned grebe, if you can pick out that white tip. But also note the head shape and body shape, how it's not as floofy as the eared grebe. Now that's kind of subjective because birds can move their feathers, but also the head shape, the peak on the horned grebe is more to the back. Actually, the crown is kind of flat. But if it were to raise those feathers up even more, that peak would be well behind the eye. But then just notice the relative size of the bill shapes.
Yeah. So that certainly makes our top bird redneck grebe. I know you're getting there, Greg. And the coloration is a little more gray than white. Seems to me typically, and the yellow on the bill I think is a really good field mark. If you can see that yellow on the bill, that's a really good field mark for redneck grebe. And they're bigger. I mean, I know big size is so subjective and it's hard to get a sense of it. But like just in sense of proportion, the head seems always a little bit larger and compared to the body. It's more block-headed. I've seen a lot of redneck grebes when they're kind of sitting up more upright, and the head is just like a giant rectangle with a bill on the front. It's a big flat-headed bird that really stands out when you see it from a long way away and makes the whole thing look kind of bigger and more substantial than relatively diminutive looking eared and horned grebes.
Yeah, and if you were looking at this bird in the field and your brain went to loon before grebe, that would be an indication that you're looking at a redneck grebe versus one of the 2 smaller species.
Now, if you see them in flight, that's a whole other thing, because a lot of times when you see grebes in flight, your brain is so befuddled by the fact that you're watching a grebe in flight that you can't really figure out what you're looking at in the first place. Because that happens to me every time I see a loon or a grebe flying. I'm like, what the heck is that? Because they don't have a tail and their big old feet just kind of flail out off the back, and they just have the weirdest shape. If I'm going to be sea watching this next week, I'm going to be seeing a bunch of those flying by, and I have to get familiar with it.
So Clifford Hawley asks about the technical terms. Is there a scale for floofy? Yes. Looks like we might have to ban him along with Matt and Steve before this is over. Come up with
a scale for floofy. I think it's somewhere along the lines of the Burb-Borb axis. I think they're sort of related.
But to be honest, I mean, eared grebe, just like this picture shows, eared grebe very, very frequently looks puffy and floofy on the back end, much more than any of our other grebes.
Yep. For sure.
All right, moving on.
Swans.
Yeah. So what's the first thing that jumps out at you here?
It's got a baby.
Yeah.
And I don't see too many babies right now. So it makes sense that it is taken in June.
Yeah. And
timing matters.
Taken exactly. We were talking earlier about status and
location.
We were talking about status and distribution just a moment ago with the Henslow sparrow, and this is another lesson in status and distribution.
Yep.
So we have a swan in June. And so we have 3 species of regularly occurring swans in Michigan. And those are trumpeter, tundra, and mute. Now, the fact that it's got a baby with us tells us that it's an adult. Tells us that it's an adult. And so we can just toss mute swan right out the door because mute swan has a big orange blob on its face that the other 2 swans don't have.
Yep.
So Michigan in June. This is from eBird.
Hello, eBird.
And this is the bar charts and frequency graphs for the 2 swan species that are now in play. We've got tundra and trumpeter, and we can see the red line, the pink line there is tundra swan, and this is for the state of Michigan. Basically, after the middle of May, tundra swan does not exist in the state of Michigan. And they do not. These birds, as they are named, they breed on the Arctic tundra, and you would never see one with a baby in the state of Michigan in June. But if we look at trumpeter swan, it's pretty much constant all across the year, and they do breed in Michigan. So we can identify this bird by status and distribution by the fact it's in June in Michigan, and it's got a baby with it, and that is a trumpeter swan. And again, if you're not familiar with eBird, go to ebird.org/explore, and all this information, you can pull it up and you can spend days
exploring stuff there. There is so much stuff that people don't use, including these abundance charts, which are amazing. You can get a lot of great information from eBird. You can find out exactly when birds are typically arriving in your place, in your state or province for migration. It is super, super useful.
Okay. More water birds.
Water birds. Good time of year for water birds.
Well, this is one that we get a lot in November and December. So we've got, these are 2 pictures of the same group of birds, just more to the left and more to the right. So I see 3 different species in these 2 pictures.
Yeah, even with these sort of poor, soft, blurry photographs, you can get a sense of what we're looking at here. Obviously, brown bodies, black necks, big white cheek patch are pretty easily identified as Canada goose. There are couple different sizes of Canada geese or Canada type geese in these photos. So I think we can pretty safely say that if this is in Nebraska, both of the white-cheeked geese are moving through. So both Canada and cackling should be around. So anything that is big, I feel pretty safe to call Canada. Anything that is little, you can really see the size difference, especially in that top photo. I would be pretty comfortable calling cackling. But there is a different goose. I'm sorry.
Well, I think there's there's at least 3, I think 4 cackling geese.
Yeah, I see.
In the picture on top.
Yep.
And the 2 on the left. So there's 4 birds at the far left of the top picture, and there's 2 that are very much smaller than the other 2.
Half the size. Yeah.
Exactly half the size. Those are obvious cackling geese. There appears to be one in the middle left. There's a pretty obvious one middle center, and possibly 1 or 2 more on the right. We can't.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe second from the right. Certainly looks like a possible cackling, but without a better photo, it's hard to tell. I definitely feel confident that the 4 in the right group, or the left group, are cackling. Yeah. And then down here in the bottom photo, which I assume is, like this is a panoramic type view. This is
It is,
later
yeah.
in the flock. Yeah, there's a goose, the far right goose. Looks like it has kind of a gray body and a blinding white head. Fortunately, there is a goose that you should be able to see in Nebraska this time of year in good numbers, and that is the blue phase of the snow goose. And so, yeah, and it's a little bit smaller than the Canada geese, not quite as small as the cackling, but just kind of stockier, shorter neck, bigger head. But the gray body, white head, definitely a blue snow goose. Formerly, they were used to be considered separate species back in a long time ago, like in the 60s and 70s, right?
Yeah.
But no, it's snow goose. It's a color phase of snow goose.
Yeah, when I got my lifer snow goose, it was actually still separate.
Yeah, blue goose they called it. Yeah, it's a different genus and different body size. But there should be a lot of those geese, and it goes to show that cackling and Canada geese really like to hang out together. They don't really they'll like the cackling geese will frequently be tucked in there within the Canada geese if you find a flock. But weird geese like snow and Rosses and maybe greater white fronted, if you've seen a goose, they do kind of like to stay a little bit separate, kind of on the outside of these kind of big flocks. So that's usually where you want to look when you're trying to find those those uncommon geese. And looks like the snow goose it knows it's a little bit off, but it knows that these are geese enough for it.
So Alex Cruz asks how to distinguish from a blue Ross's goose. That is a good point. Well, from this picture, that would be very hard because we just can't see enough detail. Going by relative size,
yeah,
I think this looks better for a snow goose than a Ross's goose.
And
but,
blue Ross's goose is really, really uncommon too. Like
exactly. No, I would just call it flat out rare. I mean, it is. If you go through the Macaulay library of all the pictures of Ross's geese, and there's thousands, the dark phase ones, you'd pull out a handful. It's a very rare color form, and if you suspect that you've got one in front of you, do everything you can to document the daylights out of it, because that's a good bird.
Yeah, and I just feel, based on the size that we can see, the size comparison with the Canadas, and just likelihood, I'd feel okay calling this a snow goose rather than a Ross's. But that is a good point, Alex. Something to take into account.
Absolutely. Okay, so this one comes from Massachusetts. And we can tell here that this is based on the size of the twigs and the evergreen leaves in front of it, that this is a teeny cedar. Little borb.
Yeah. This is a teeny borb, really small, really round, really very tiny, thin bill.
Toothpick of a bill.
Yeah, this is sort of in this, that small, that round. I'm thinking kinglet for sure of my perching birds. Yeah, big head. The head is huge compared to the body. Like it's it's definitely a borb. No, it's a burb. This is a burb.
A burb. Yeah, and so we've got two kinglets in the ABA area, and their facial patterns
be the same genus, but they're not.
Their facial patterns are very different. And this bird actually has kind of an interesting face pattern. It's got a white arc under the eye, a little bit of a black mustache, and a very noticeable dark supercilium, which is the white eyebrow stripe, and a dark crown, all of which leads us pretty quickly to golden crowned kinglet. And the reason is a pretty straightforward bird for a lot of people, and this is one of the first birds many people in the ABA area learn in fall and winter, except for in the deep south. But what I wanted to talk about here was the habits of this bird, and because it's one of those birds that's overhead, and experienced birders, there will be some movement or something, you'll look up and they'll just be like, golden crown kinglet, and move on without even barely looking at it. It's like, how do they do that?
Sometimes you hear them going too, but that is one of the real high-pitched calls that older birders tend to lose first.
Yes. kinglets are making noise. Golden crown kinglets have this very high-pitched call that they make almost constantly. And, you can hear them, and when you see them, we're going to try something new here that we haven't done before, so hopefully it's going to work. I'm going to move on to the next slide here, which has an embedded video in it, and you've got to watch this closely if you're not familiar with kinglets. In the middle of this video, this bird is going to do a thing that's unique to kinglets. And you got to watch it, and I'm only going to be able to play it once, so you got to watch closely. It does this little wing flick like this. And when you watch kinglets, they do this just constantly and habitually, and it's really noticeable when you get on the bird for just a couple of seconds, you see these little wing flicks. So here we go. Make sure you see if this works.
Yeah, here we go. It's doing the thing, maybe. Is it gonna do the? Did it do it?
There. Well, not right there.
It's hard to. I guess I would call that a wing flick right there.
Right there. Right there.
Oh yeah. It's like it gets blurry all of a sudden.
It's really fast.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a kinglet thing. Both kinglets do it for what it's worth, and they both have those yellow, kind of light yellow edgings to their flight feathers, and so you kind of see that wing flick a little bit more. It even accentuates it a little bit when you see them do that.
Absolutely. All right, now we're on to the next bird.
More geese. Or are we doing the gull behind it? We can do the gull.
No, we're not doing the gull behind it. We're doing the geese.
Herg.
Because this is one of the things that when it comes to geese, this is a bird that we get a lot, and it confuses people a lot.
Before we move on to this, I do want to address an Alex Cruz question in the comments.
Yes.
This is a really good one regarding kinglets. He asks, do you have a good tip pattern to distinguish between brown creeper and golden crown kinglet? I assume he's talking about the vocalizations, the call. Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one. It took me a long time to get that kind of figured out. But my sense, this may be just totally personal, the way I hear them, is that brown creeper tends to have, it sounds more tremulous. It sounds weaker. It's kind of like a kinglet that's maybe not putting its entire heart into it. If you know a kinglet, they put their heart into every single thing that they do. But a brown creeper, it feels kind of weaker, like it kind of tails off at the end too, and maybe it tremors a little bit when you hear it. Whereas a kinglet's like dee 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 when you hear it go.
It's longer. Right, yeah, the creeper, like you said, it's a longer. Let's see if I can do this without making a complete idiot of myself. The brown creeper is longer and a little tremulous, and like you said, it's kind of a.
Yeah.
Whereas the golden crown kinglet is a. And once you get familiar with them, if you get a bunch of kinglets and then hear a creeper, you're like, well, that one's different.
Yeah, exactly.
That assumes you can hear them at all, which a lot of people can't.
Yeah. I once when I was younger and I first moved to North Carolina, I did a Christmas bird count in Raleigh, and I was assigned to this Greenway trail with some older birders who were very skilled birders, great folks to be around, and I was excited to be birding with them. But when I was with them, we broke their day record of brown creeper just because I could hear them, and they had been walking this trail forever and they couldn't hear it anymore. And so I was like, we walked for a while and I was like, oh, brown creeper, there's another one. Oh, brown creeper over here, brown creeper over here. We ended up with like a dozen brown creepers when their usual count was something like 1 or 2, because they could only see them. And as you know, they can be quite difficult to see if they're like on the wrong side of a branch, and it's just so cryptic a lot of times. You have to be kind of lucky to catch the movement. But yeah, definitely if you can still hear them, you'll find a lot more of them, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So as we talked about with the geese, a minute or two ago,
Yep.
Canada geese come in all kinds of flavors, and they come from very small to very large, long-necked birds. Actually, there's a race called the giant Canada goose, which is approaching tundra swan size.
It's a big bird.
It is big. It's big, and down to birds that look like this. And these birds get confused with cackling geese quite a bit. This is one of the smaller Canada goose subspecies. I don't know, is it parvipes or however we pronounce
Canada.
that. Parvipet.
Lesser Canada. Yeah.
Lesser Canada. But let's look at structure. And so here's a cackling goose compared to the two birds in front, which are Canada geese. And you'll notice the cackling goose, the neck is even shorter still, but look at the stubby little bill.
Yeah, and the round head. I mean, it's hard. You don't like to say that a bird is cute, or maybe you do, but yeah, cackling goose just looks cute, especially the smaller ones. Whereas lesser Canadas, even if they're small in size, they look like Canada geese. They still have that kind of sloped forehead, longer bill kind of look that is very Canada goose-esque.
Exactly. And there are birds that are in between that you can't identify, and that's fine.
Once in a while. Yep.
That is totally fine.
Yep.
And
as
you don't
more experienced as a birder, the proportion of unidentified birds might decrease, but it never reaches zero.
Exactly. So yeah, they're in a classic cackling goose compared with two lesser Canada geese. So you can see the difference in structure.
And a herring gull.
And a herring gull. And you see these birds are pretty small compared to the herring.
Yeah.
It's about the same size as the herring gull.
Yeah.
So I think, that's it for us for the birds.
Right.
We got to kind of cut this one short because we both have things to do this afternoon. But one other thing I wanted to mention.
Oh yeah, please go ahead.
One other thing I wanted to mention this afternoon, thing that I'm working on as soon as we get out of here, is related to the Bird of the Year reveal party that is, again, happening this Sunday in Philadelphia. This Sunday afternoon, you can go to aba.org, and there's a banner up at the top. Click it for details. If you're in the Philly area, pop in. You don't have to buy tickets in advance. We'd like you to. There's a little discount for buying tickets in advance, but if you're in the area and want to pop in, we're taking walk-ins. You can buy your ticket at the door. But one of the things we're going to, and there's a lot of it, and there's a lot of really, yes, we do require proof of vaccination. One of the things that's going to be happening is the artist Christina Ball will be there, and will be doing, if you buy a VIB, that's very important, birder ticket, Christina will be doing sketches for you live. You get a sketch of your favorite bird. So you tell her what your bird is, and she will do an original piece of art for you there. And the details of that are, again, on the webpage. But now we have a tradition with the Bird of the Year where the artwork that's done is the cover of the magazine for January, for Birding Magazine. And we have all of this wonderful cover art that can soon be yours. Well, no, we're talking about 10 years now, going back.
Oh, are we selling all the cover art?
Eventually. We are starting off with Christina's. There will be an auction beginning, I believe, tomorrow. And watch the usual channels. We'll let you know. But we will be auctioning off the cover art, and so you can own.
The issue, of course, being that you won't know what it is until Sunday at 5.
Right. Well, the bidding for this particular one will go on until you won't have to jump in and bid on it exactly at that time. But if you want to get in early, it's worth it. If you want to get in early, you can do so and place some bids before you even know what the art looks like. And it will be revealed Sunday afternoon. So look for that.
Live.
We will be promoting that on all the usual channels.
Yep, 5 o'clock Sunday. If you can't join us in Philadelphia, we'll be live on our social media feeds, and you'll be able to join us and celebrate the new bird of the year with us. Although, I don't want to give pileated woodpecker the short shrift. It deserves a full 52 weeks instead of just 51 weeks. But we're very excited about the 2022 bird of the year. Our three pieces of art for the magazine cover, and of course 2 different stickers this year.
Yeah,
everyone gets both. Everyone gets 2 stickers. And before we go, we would say if you enjoy this sort of enjoy this sort of program, and you would like to help support us, please consider supporting us with your membership. aviated.org/join. You can join memberships at a number of different levels. We certainly appreciate it. They also make great holiday gifts. If you're still looking for holiday gifts before the Christmas season is officially over, ABA memberships make great holiday gifts. And also we're doing our year-end appeal. If you want to throw us a few bucks, you can do so at aviated.org/gift.
Help keep the lights on and keep things like What's This Bird Live and everything else we do coming your way.
Yeah. Otherwise, Greg, we are coming to the end. And
I think we are out the door.
We're out the door. We'll be back in a couple weeks. Keep an eye out for us before the end of the. I believe that we get one more of these before the end of the year. Right? It'll be like the 31st, right? It'll be the 31st. It'll be the last day of the year.
Ooh.
So
all right, we may have to make an audible on that one because
we'll see. Keep an eye out.
I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly where I'm going to be on the afternoon of the 31st.
Maybe I'll get Ted or someone to help me out. We can mix and match. But we'll be back. Keep an eye out for us if you want to get a subscription to our newsletter. We definitely do that here. If you saw last week's newsletter that we were supposed to do it last Friday, that's my fault. I apologize for that. I put it in incorrectly. But we'll be back in a couple weeks. Keep an eye out. And otherwise, have a great new year. Have a great Christmas bird count season. Greg, I'll see you around. I'll see everybody out there, and good birding to you all.
All right.